My favorite quote was, "The very fact of mirroring something alters whatever is being mirrored. The very act of describing something alters whatever is being described." It has taken me a ridiculously long time to actually film this, but nevertheless, I want to talk to you about this program that Prado does. Writing the Prado is a literary program hosted by the Prado Museum, and it invites internationally renowned writers for a residency program during which they engage with the paintings, the art, the sculptures, and then produce a literary piece that is published by the museum. The aim of this program is to stimulate the dialogue between art and literature, which I thought was really interesting, and this is kind of what I also wanted to do this year with my free time. I went to Prado, I found out about this program, and I got the first book that called to me, which was this one. Olga Tokarczuk, The Refuge. Just a quick recap for people who don't know, Olga Tokarczuk is a Polish writer who in 2018 won the Nobel Prize for Literature, and she is known for a very narrative imagination. And because I read a lot of her works in high school, I thought this would be a good place to start. Tokarczuk decided to connect her work to the painting by Brueghel and Rubens, which is called The Sense of Smell, and it's a part of a series of 5 paintings about senses. So the book, it describes a post-apocalyptic vision of the world where people take refuge from the world in paintings. So they quite literally begin to live inside of them. It was so interesting to read this book in the museum because I bought it in the museum and then I went straight to the cafeteria and read it and made notes, and then I went to visit the painting itself. It took the idea of escapism to a whole new extreme because we all use museums and galleries to just go and visit and sit and, you know, spend time differently than we would normally, but here you quite literally escape into a painting, which was super interesting. Because the entire plot happens in the painting, The Sense of Smell. Smell is a very important factor in the story. She starts with describing the smell of the world we know today. Car exhaust fumes and the smell of food coming from open quarters, mainly frying oil and baking starch. Liquid disinfectant, sharp and distinctive, but always finished with a crowning touch, flowery or fruity. Chlorine, irritating the nose. These are the smells that we know from every day, living in a big city and breathing the car exhaust fumes, and specifically the disinfectant, which is still so familiar after COVID. And she juxtaposes those smells with the smells in the painting. The painting is a very vibrant piece. Looking at it, you kind of can tell what smells you would be expecting, but Tokarczuk goes a bit further. She uses the smells that we can't really describe. For example, cashmeran. It's an incredible smell in which the odors of old resin, damp wood, and something green are combined. I don't know how to describe it to you. This smell makes me feel calm and happy. It's a smell that's indescribable, and she uses those smells and the smells in the painting to contrast them with the world that we know today. Apparently, the human brain feels euphoria when it smells wet earth. It's the smell of rain when it touches the ground surface, of silt and of wood that's been lying in the water for a long time. The smell of damp, of the origins of life, or it may even be the actual smell of life. The smell has a name, it's geosmin. It's my favorite smell in the world, the smell of rain. It's the smell that appears right before a storm and right after, and it's just hangs in the air, lingers, and it's amazing. So she uses the smell in the painting as something that's quite indescribable, which I thought was so interesting because the smell of the real world is so real. The car exhaust fumes, chlorine, disinfectant, and then you have the contrast with the painting. The smells she describes are so abstract, they can really only belong in a painting. From the medical, biological perspective, there was one part that was really interesting. The humans in the future that the narrator describes have evolved and adapted physically to the changes. They now call themselves verdigris, and they are covered in tattoos made out of chlorophyll. And in that way, they can absorb the energy from the sun, which obviously is not possible right now, but we somehow always come back to photosynthesis, and I don't know what it is that we find so interesting about it, but we always come back to it. Very much like the idea of not just getting inspiration from a painting, but connecting the painting to the story. It's so intricately because you can't separate the two. You can't read the story without the painting, and after you read the story, you look at the painting and you think of the story. So they really become one. My favorite quote was, "The very fact of mirroring something alters whatever is being mirrored. The very act of describing something alters whatever is being described." This has so many implications, mostly that this video essay and me explaining to you and describing the book doesn't make much sense unless you read it yourself. But I hope I just gave you a bit of an idea of what the book is about, and maybe encourage you to actually read anything, not even this one, but anything from this series, because I think it's such an interesting project and I hope they continue it more. This is Tokarczuk's, Olga Tokarczuk's The Refuge. If you're looking for something short, really interesting and quite thought-provoking, I recommend this, and I also recommend going to the Prado right after and looking at the painting. It's on the second floor, very hidden, not a lot of tourists there, and you can just sit and look at it and think and maybe come up to the same conclusions as Tokarczuk did. This entire project started because I wanted to go to museums, but in a different way. You're used to consuming content so quickly and just going into museums, seeing free paintings and then leaving. But this kind of forces you to slow down, sit down and contemplate and think. It shows you the connection between literature and art, and also it being called The Refuge. You kind of do find that in the Prado whenever you want to, and I found that a lot this year, visiting it so many times. But yeah, this was, I don't even know what to call it, video essay 1, book club 1. Hope this was interesting. Any questions? Would love to talk to anybody who actually read this book, so if you did, text me, DM me, whatever. And yeah, bye!